There are moments in a courtroom that stay with me forever. If you believe dignity matters, stay with me, subscribe, and walk this road with me. Some cases are about laws on paper. Some are about the human heart. This was one of those cases. I remember that day as if it were this morning. Hit that like button right now if you've ever seen someone judged too quickly. The air in the room felt heavy. People were waiting for their names to be called. Papers shuffled, shoes tapped. The clerk looked tired. The officer near the wall kept glancing at the clock, and then she stepped forward. If this touches you, please subscribe. An elderly mother, small frame, worn coat, hands that looked like they had done years of work. She held her purse close to her chest, not like a person hiding something, but like a person protecting the last thing she owned. I've seen that look before. Let me take you back to that courtroom. Comment. Was I too harsh on what came next? I had already heard a string of cases that morning, some careless drivers, some angry voices, some excuses. I was tired, but I was listening. I always tried to listen. In my years on the bench, I learned that a face can tell you one story and a voice can tell you another. When the clerk called her case, she walked carefully to the front. Join me, subscribe for more stories about justice and mercy. She looked embarrassed. Not defiant, not proud, embarrassed. Her shoes were old. One heel leaned slightly to the side. She kept saying, "Yes, sir," so softly I had to lean forward. The charge itself was minor, but the burden behind it was not. She'd been cited over unpaid fines connected to an old vehicle issue. Thank you for being here. Please share this with someone who believes poverty is not a crime. On paper, it looks simple. Missed deadlines, unpaid balance, failure to resolve the matter. But paper can be cold. Paper doesn't tell you if a person skipped meals to keep the lights on. I asked her to tell me what happened. Wait till you hear what came next. But first, subscribe. She swallowed hard. She looked back once toward the benches. No lawyer beside her. No family member standing up to help. Just that little purse, those shaking fingers, and a face lined with years. She said, "Your Honor, I tried." And I believed that she had. Now here's the thing that struck me. Hit that like button right now if you know effort matters. Some people come into court with a polished story. They have every answer ready. But the truth often stumbles. The truth hesitates. The truth looks down because it has carried too much. That is what I saw in her. I asked where she lived and how she was getting by. If this touches you, please subscribe. She told me she was raising a grandson part of the week. Her daughter worked nights, rent had gone up, medicine cost more, the car had broken down twice. Then she said something I still hear in my mind. I kept choosing food over the fine. The room got very quiet. You could have heard a pin drop. Comment. What would you have done in my place? Even the people waiting for their own cases stopped moving. The clerk looked up. The officer near the door softened his face. I felt something in my chest, because I grew up around people like her. Hard-working people, proud people, people who patched, stretched, and sacrificed. My father used to say that a person's true riches show in character. Join me, subscribe for more. He worked long hours, he respected every honest worker, and he taught me something I never forgot. When life knocks a good person down, you don't step on their hands, you help them stand. That voice echoed in me as I looked at her, but the story did not end there. Thank you for being here. Please share this. 2 days earlier, I had a woman named Maria in my courtroom. Maria came in with almost nothing. Her water bill had gone unpaid after she lost part of her job. She was scared, but she was respectful. She brought every paper she had. She answered every question directly. She never blamed the world. Maria looked me in the eye and said, "Judge, I'm ashamed, but I'm trying. If this touches you, please subscribe." I helped her because she gave me truth, not polish, not attitude, truth. I worked out a path she could manage, and she left with tears in her eyes, not because she got off easy, but because someone had heard her. That is what mercy is for. So when this elderly mother stood before me, I thought of Maria. Hit that like button right now if respect still matters. I thought of all the people who struggle without losing their decency. I thought of the difference between hardship and entitlement. Hardship bows its head but keeps going. Entitlement lifts its chin and demands applause. That difference matters in court, and it matters in life. At first, I believed this mother belonged in the first group. Comment: have you met someone like this? I believed she was carrying more than she could handle. I asked a few more questions gently. I wanted to understand the whole picture. Had she ignored notices on purpose? Had anyone helped her fill out forms? Was she living alone? Was there some other trouble she was too ashamed to mention? That was when the mood changed. Join me. Subscribe for more stories like this. From the back bench, a voice cut through the courtroom, loud, sharp, full of impatience. A younger woman stood up before I called on her. She waved a phone in her hand and said, "This is ridiculous. She shouldn't even be here. You people keep wasting our time." And just like that, the room turned. I looked toward her and asked who she was. "Thank you for being here. Please share this." She said she was the daughter. She walked forward without permission, still holding that phone. She didn't help her mother with an arm. She didn't ask with respect. She marched up like the courtroom was a customer service desk and she was there to complain. My first reaction was concern, then disbelief. I said, "Ma'am, lower your voice. If this touches you, please subscribe." She rolled her eyes in open court. Then she muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Unbelievable. I've seen frustration. I've seen fear. But this was something else. This was contempt dressed up as confidence. That kind of arrogance has a smell to it. It fills a room." I asked her to step back and let her mother speak. "Hit that like button right now." Instead, she smirked and said, "She doesn't know what to say. I handle everything." Her mother looked smaller by the second. That bothered me more than I can tell you. There is a way you protect family with love. This was not love. This was control. This was humiliation in public. Then came the moment that shocked the room. Comment: was this the line too far? While I was speaking, the daughter looked down and started checking her phone, not once, repeatedly, thumb moving, head shaking. I paused. She sighed as if I were interrupting her day. Then she said, "Can we speed this up? I've got work." A gasp ran through the benches. I felt my hands tighten on the bench. Join me. Subscribe for more. In all my years hearing cases, disrespect toward me never mattered much. I've been called worse than impatient, but disrespect toward an elderly mother standing there in shame? That touched something deep in me. Because I grew up in neighborhoods where people had very little, but they still knew how to honor their mothers. I asked the daughter if she had contributed to paying the fines. "Thank you for being here. Please share this." She laughed. Then she said, "I'm not throwing my money away because she can't keep up." Her mother's face fell. I will never forget that look. Not anger, not surprise, a wounded kind of silence. The silence of a person who has been let down more than once. And then the daughter said words that still trouble me. "If this touches you, please subscribe." She pointed, not at me, but toward the clerk and said, "You people act like this matters. She's old. Just drop it. You people." As if the staff were beneath her, as if the rules were a joke, as if age erased responsibility but also erased dignity. The courtroom froze. The clerk had done nothing but her job. Hit that like button right now if workers deserve respect. The officer had been polite. Every person in that room had shown more patience than she had, yet she treated them like furniture, disposable, invisible. My frustration rose, not because she challenged authority, but because she showed no respect for anyone who could not benefit her. My father, God rest his soul, used to tell me, "Character is how you treat those who can't help you." Comment with that if you believe it's true. Those words rang in my ears. Here was a woman with enough strength to speak loudly, enough energy to argue, enough confidence to mock, but not enough grace to stand beside her mother with kindness. Money can buy comfort. It cannot buy decency. Part of me wanted to show mercy anyway. Join me. Subscribe for more stories of right and wrong. That elderly mother was still standing there, frail, ashamed, caught between the law and her daughter's arrogance. I thought, do I separate one from the other? Do I protect the mother from the consequences made worse by the daughter? Or do I hold the line because the court itself was being tested? That is the burden people don't always see. Thank you for being here. Please share this. A judge does not simply decide a number or sign a form. A judge weighs conduct, context, fairness, and the message sent to everyone watching. Mercy without wisdom can become permission. Severity without compassion can become cruelty. The hard work is finding the narrow bridge between them. I paused longer than usual. If this touches you, please subscribe. The clock on the wall ticked. No one spoke. I could feel the weight of every eye in that courtroom. I thought of my wife and the way she often reminds me, gently, to look past the noise and find the wound underneath. I thought of prayer. I asked silently for guidance. And I thought again of Maria. Hit that like button right now if humility changes everything. Maria had less than this daughter, but more character by far. Maria didn't demand, she didn't insult, she didn't hide behind a performance. She came with honesty, and honesty opened the door to mercy. This daughter came with scorn, and scorn began closing doors all around her mother. I couldn't ignore what I was seeing. Comment: should attitude affect judgment? Some say a courtroom should be all rules and no human reading of the room. I disagree. The law lives in human reality. Attitude reveals truth. Tone reveals character. The way we treat people under stress tells the court who we are when the mask slips, and on that day, the mask slipped. Still, my heart hurt for the mother. Join me. Subscribe for more. I asked the daughter to step back again. This time my voice was firmer. I said, "Your mother will answer for herself." The mother looked at me with watery eyes. Then, almost in a whisper, she said, "I don't want trouble, Your Honor." That sentence pierced me, because she was not the trouble. She was living beside it. I asked her whether she had tried to arrange payments. "Thank you for being here. Please share this." She nodded. She had made one small payment months earlier. Then medicine costs rose. Then heating bills. Then her grandson needed school clothes. Every answer was plain. No drama, no performance. Just the arithmetic of poverty. Add a need. Subtract money. Repeat until dignity begins to shake. My frustration turned into clarity. If this touches you, please subscribe. Poverty was the struggle here, but poverty was not the crime. The deeper offense in that room was the daughter's cruelty and contempt. I could not punish a mother for being poor, and I could not reward a daughter for bullying the court, the staff, and her own family. Justice had to draw that line clearly, so I looked them in the eye and said, "Here is my decision. Hit that like button right now and tell me if you agree." I dismissed the added penalties that had piled up because of her inability to pay. I reduced the underlying amount to something manageable. I ordered a simple payment plan she could meet without skipping food or medicine, and then I turned to the daughter. I said very calmly, "You are not on the ticket, but your conduct matters." Comment: was I right to say that? The courtroom stayed silent. She stopped smirking. I told her that if she wanted to help her mother, she could begin by showing respect. Respect to her mother, respect to the clerk, respect to every working person in that room. Respect is not optional. Then I added something from my heart. Join me. Subscribe for more moments like this. I said, "Your mother's poverty does not diminish her dignity, but your attitude diminishes yours." You could feel the air change. The daughter's face hardened first, then cracked. She opened her mouth to argue. I raised my hand and said, "No, you've said enough." She fell quiet. The mother began to cry. "Thank you for being here. Please share this." Not loud, just tears she had held back too long. I handed her time, structure, and a chance. But more than that, I tried to hand her back her standing as a human being. I wanted her to walk out knowing that the court had seen her struggle and did not confuse hardship with wrongdoing. The daughter looked stunned. If this touches you, please subscribe. Maybe she expected the system to crush her mother or ignore her. Maybe she believed loudness was power. But in that moment, the loudest thing in the room was truth. And truth said this: everyone deserves respect and everyone owes it. Age deserves tenderness. Poverty deserves understanding. Arrogance deserves a boundary. After the case ended, the benches stayed quiet for a moment. Hit that like button right now if this moved you. Then the next file was called and court went on because courts always go on. But I did not forget that family. Cases end on paper more quickly than they end in the mind. I carried them with me the rest of the day. That night I couldn't sleep easily. Comment: do judges carry cases home? Yes, sometimes we do. I kept seeing the mother's hands. I kept hearing the daughter say, "Can we speed this up?" I kept wondering how many kitchens had felt that same tension. How many elderly parents sat at tables they once ruled, now spoken over like burdens instead of blessings. When I walked to my car, the air felt cold. Join me, subscribe for more honest reflections. I sat there before turning the key. I asked myself whether I had done enough. Had I protected the mother? Had I embarrassed the daughter in a way that would make change harder? Or had I spoken the only truth strong enough to break through her pride? Those questions stayed with me. At home, my wife asked me what was wrong. Thank you for being here. Please share this. She knows my face better than I do. I told her the story over dinner. I told her about the mother, the phone, the smirk, the laughter, the wound behind the silence. My wife put down her fork and said something simple. Maybe that mother needed someone to say out loud what she could not. That helped me. If this touches you, please subscribe. Not because it erased my doubt, but because it named the deeper duty. Sometimes justice is not only about fines or deadlines. Sometimes it is about restoring a person's place in the moral order, telling the truth in public when someone has been shamed in public, drawing a line where decency has been crossed. On the drive home, I kept replaying one image after another, the mother standing still, the daughter leaning on anger like it was a shield, the clerk staying patient, the people in the benches watching, maybe thinking about their own families. A courtroom is never just one case. It is a small window into the whole city. You see pride there. You see hunger there. You see kindness, cruelty, fear, and hope all standing in line together. That day reminded me that justice is not blind to suffering. It must look straight at suffering and name it honestly. When a person is drowning, we should not lecture them on dry shoes. We should ask how deep the water is. But when someone kicks the drowning person and calls it strength, then the court must speak firmly, or silence becomes part of the injury. That lesson is one I never want to forget ever again. Weeks later, I heard that the mother had made her first payment. Hit that like button right now if small victories matter. On time, small amount, honest effort. I also heard, through the court staff, that the daughter came back once and was much quieter. I don't know whether her heart changed. I pray it did. People can change. Pride is loud, but conscience can speak louder over time. Would I decide the same way again? Comment, yes or no. Yes, I would. Not because it was easy, not because it felt satisfying, but because it was right. Mercy for struggle, firmness for contempt, protection for dignity. A courtroom must never become a place where poverty is mistaken for moral failure. In my years on the bench, I have seen thousands of cases. Join me, subscribe for more wisdom from the courtroom. I have seen rich people beg for sympathy and poor people offer grace. I have seen polished shoes walk in with rotten character. I have seen worn coats cover noble hearts. That is why I never let appearance decide the case for me. Here is the lesson I want to leave with you. Thank you for being here. Please share this. Arrogance is fear in a fancy suit. It barks because it is weak. It insults because it cannot stand honest reflection. And poverty, my friends, is not a crime. Struggling to survive is not shameful. Losing money is not the same as losing character. If you have an elderly parent, call them. If this touches you, please subscribe. Sit with them. Listen longer than usual. If you are struggling, do not let anyone tell you that your hardship makes you less worthy. It does not. Your worth does not shrink with your bank account, and if you are doing well, remember this. Success without kindness is failure in better clothes. My father taught me that family is sacred. Hit that like button right now if you believe that too. Faith taught me that every person bears dignity. The bench taught me that justice must be human or it becomes machinery. So when I think back on that mother, I do not remember a file number. I remember a face asking, without words, to be treated as someone who mattered. She did matter. Comment, do you agree with that message? She mattered before she entered the courtroom. She mattered while her daughter spoke over her. She mattered when tears filled her eyes. And she mattered when she walked out with a payment plan, and I hope a little of her pride restored. Sometimes the greatest thing a court can do is see clearly. So I leave you with this. Join me. Subscribe for more stories that lift the heart. Be careful how you speak to people who seem powerless. The way you treat them is a mirror. One day life may turn, and you may need the very mercy you once denied. Give respect freely. Hold yourself accountable. Protect the dignity of the old, the poor, and the forgotten. And if you ever wonder what justice should sound like, maybe it sounds like this. Thank you for being here. Please share this. Not softness without truth, not punishment without compassion, but steady eyes and open heart and a firm voice saying, I see your struggle, and I will not call it a crime. Good luck to you, and God bless.